You can find peace and happiness after an abusive relationship. Hi, my name is Leanne and welcome to my channel. I say this with love 33. This is a topic that I am an expert in. I had been in an abusive relationship for 40 years. And my experiences were verbal abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and also manipulation. I know there's a lot of you out there, a lot of ladies out there that are in relationships and you stay because you don't know any different. You're fearful. How am I going to survive on my own? How would I live? How would I afford to eat? How would I do this? How would I do that? And all our fear comes into play, and our shame comes into play, and our guilt comes into play, because if we even think about stepping away from this abusive relationship, it's gonna tear apart the family or the dynamic that you have co-created. I know how that feels. I was there 4 years ago, and I want to let you know there is hope. Yeah, it takes time, it takes work, it takes some really going in deep and looking inward at you and your own shortcomings, if you will, your own inner child woundings, your own generational trauma, the psychology that you have carried on from your childhood with you throughout your adult life and into your relationships. All that plays a part. And when you connect with another person and you meet and you attract each other, you are attracting each other probably more than likely, unless you've done a lot of deep inner healing work, from wounded states. And that's how I had set my life up, and that's what I did. And it took me 40 years in this relationship, which every single day and every single minute of every day wasn't bad and it wasn't abusive. But over the time, I can look back and definitely see the patterns and the traits and the red flags and how I was calling that in. And that goes even deeper into a whole other video. But I want to just like surface level touch upon that you can find your peace and your happiness again after stepping out of an abusive relationship. It's going to take a choice to step out of an abusive relationship. It took me a long time. I worked on myself and went into a state of like, I need some space. And then I joined yoga and I started to learn to love myself and like myself again. And I started to educate myself about what's going on in my world and why does my husband do this and why do I do that? And like I was asking Google and going on YouTube and educating myself. So many things are out like me on YouTube, putting my story out there so that I can help others. And that's how I learned. And that's how I started to begin to heal myself, is by listening to other stories, listening to other people's expertise. And yeah, I don't have a license. I don't have a degree in this stuff. I have life experience. I have 40 years of living in a verbally abusive, mentally abusive, a narcissistic relationship. And then beyond that, I was 54 when I kind of had an awakening. So the first 54 years of my life, I was unaware of life, I guess, basically, and how I should feel and how I don't have to give to others and how I don't have to be a codependent and how I can find my own self-worth and my own self-love. And when you become a person in a toxic relationship that is abusive and you are, I'm going to say the victim, but I don't like that word victim because we are not victims. We are creators. But I do understand, and it took me quite a long time to understand what victim meant. I do understand if you're at the beginning of this journey, or you're maybe just in it a little bit and you're thinking, oh, you don't know, like he does this to me and that to me and poor me, and he doesn't let me do this or buy that, or he hits me or whatever it is. I get it. I know what you're saying. I feel you. And again, where I'm going is much deeper into the layers of healing. So this is basic surface level, but I say this with love. You might be in that space where you're like, I can't do it anymore. My body's breaking down. I'm completely depressed. I hate my husband. I hate my house. There's nothing joyful in my life. I don't care about anything anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I used to say to myself, I am so miserable and so unhappy. I'd rather live in the gutter than live in this household. And it took me a while to understand I'm not gonna be living in the gutter. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything works out the way that it's supposed to. But once you can release the guilt and the shame and the fears that you have within, and it's not from that other person, it's your own fear, guilt, and shames, you're gonna empower yourself and you're gonna find strength from within. And that took me a while to get there. I didn't have that immediately. It took me probably, oh gosh, I would say maybe a good 6 months to a year to even begin to scratch that surface of like feeling like I'm enough, I'm worthy, I don't have to prove my worth. I'm not all the names that my ex-husband used to call me. I'm not this horrific person. I'm not going to hell if I decide to get a divorce. So I offer you to give yourself grace. First and foremost, if you're at the beginning of your journey of not feeling good, but knowing that something's not okay, the biggest thing for me was to admit it to myself. And I was in my car one day driving to work and I finally admitted, like, I am not happy and I want a divorce. And like the weight of the world came off my shoulders in that instance. Yeah, that was just the beginning of a lot of work that was coming forward. But to admit it to yourself and to say it out loud and to realize the world isn't gonna implode inward when you say that, it's empowering. And it's a beautiful place to start, because you have to get yourself into a space of your inner strength, your inner knowledge, your inner knowing that this isn't right. And I know I just keep ignoring it, but my body's been talking to me and I'm trying to get through it, but it's not working. And I'm just gonna have to like call it quits. And that took me a little bit of time to do that, but it's very, very empowering. And it feels much better when you can release that cord of holding on to something that you know is already, for lack of a better term, dead. I endured a lot of gaslighting, and you might endure a lot of gaslighting too. So you begin to lose trust within yourself. You don't even know like which end is up. There might be a lot of word salad, and everything you say gets taken and twisted and turned to make you look like the bad guy or like you're the crazy one. And after a period of time in that state, you really start to believe that you're crazy or you're not okay. I thought I had dementia for a while and I was losing my mind. You start to lose that inner fire and that passion and like just normalcy of like not second guessing yourself with every choice that you make, every decision you make, every step you take each day. I would find myself second guessing myself, like to the point where I just got to, I couldn't even make a decision. I didn't even know what to do for dinner. I didn't even know like what to get at the grocery store. I just like kind of started to freeze up. My body was locking up because after so many years of abusive behaviors and manipulation, you lose yourself and obviously you lose your peace and your happiness. I lived in fight or flight. And you know, the cortisol levels are just off the roof when you live in fight or flight, and the stress hormones and everything is just like this. And you can find, again, I promise you, a trauma bond is something that I had and that I lived with and that I didn't even know, or I never even heard of that before I admitted to myself that something's wrong with my marriage and I'm not happy, and like, why does my husband hate me, and all the things that I would type in. And then I found somebody on YouTube that was absolutely phenomenal, and she was a narcissistic expert, and she's a PhD and a psychologist and all the beautiful things. And she talked about a trauma bond, and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And then listening to it and reading about it, I was like, oh my God, I have been in a trauma bond and I totally get it. And that's when the victim has an attachment toward the abuser. So they'll abuse you and they'll do all the things that they do to you. And then like in the next minute, they'll be like giving you like love and like, oh, you know, I love you. And oh, you know, that's just marriage and all the things. So you're like, like you don't know what is true and what is reality and what the hell is going on, because your mental capacity has just been flatlined due to this toxic behavior and manipulation. I started to, and I highly suggest this, connect with friends and family that you can be supported by, that you can be vulnerable with. Open up if you are in a safe space, and reach out to people that can support you. That is so important, because going through this alone is extremely difficult. And I'll say, I did the majority of this alone because I didn't want to bring in my adult kids into my mixture of, separating from their dad. And I had a coworker that I could be vulnerable with, but I didn't open up fully. I'm a very guarded and introverted person. And this was a very raw space and a raw time. And I probably also had a lot of pride that was thinking, ooh, I put up this figure of myself that I'm married and I've been married for 40 years and I have this and I have that and everything's great. And then all that came crumbling down and the earth shook it out and said, nope, this isn't in alignment with you anymore. You're not doing that. So I probably had my tail tucked between my legs for a certain period of time that I was beginning my journey of healing. But you know what? I released that. Don't have shame. Don't have guilt. Be open, be honest. If you feel safe, you have to feel safe, because when you've been in an abusive relationship, you don't feel safe. And it takes a while for your nervous system to come back to itself, and the vagus nerve and all the things that take place during your years in fight or flight. And you can heal that, like I've mentioned before in other videos, through yoga. I learned how to do all this through yoga, through meditation, sitting with yourself in silence or with music, or however you can listen to your inner self and hear what you have to say. I do it with the music, but meditation, when you can get into that space, will go up the spine and trigger melatonin. And melatonin is a lightener, and it'll lighten you. I'm serious. And it's not just like a skin lightener, but it helps with your sleep. It helps with everything. If you have trouble sleeping and you're in this space, meditate before you go to bed. Shut down your phone and sit in quietness and darkness, and shut down your eyes and focus on your breath and meditate. See if you can activate, the pineal gland. It takes a practice and it takes a while. So don't think, oh, am I doing this wrong? Am I doing this right? I don't know. I didn't feel anything. Just keep going with it and don't give up on yourself, because when you can meditate, that is a positive on your side. And it's even biblical to sit in silence. I can say that is probably one of the most important things that I have learned over my journey of 4 years, is to meditate. I feel so amazing afterwards, and I learned how to listen to my gut, my intuition, my own self, that only you know what is right for you. The world can tell you what you need to be happy and how to be successful. Social media, the way you were raised, your family, your friends, the church, everybody tells you how to do this and how to be and what to do and blah, 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 and you're still miserable. Well, I'm going to tell you, and I say this with love, shut all that out, block it out, release it out of your mind and your brain, and come into yourself. What does your body, what does your heart, your soul, your gut, your intuition tell you, and how do you feel? And listen to that, because your nervous system is never going to steer you wrong. Also, get some exercise, get out in nature and take some movement. Walk, swim, run, dance, ride a bike, whatever it is, find movement, because exercise stimulates certain hormones and it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So your nervous system comes down a bit, so you're not so much like this, but you have more moments of clarity and of your rest and digest. You want your rest and digest set. And you can also get that through breath work. Breathing, focus on your breathing. There's lots of ways to do breath work, and you can find this on YouTube. And there's a specific one, or a basic one. It's a 4x4. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. And inhales are slow and exhales are slow. One that I learned earlier on in my journey was called 3-6-9, and you inhale for 3, hold for 6, and exhale for 9. And your inhalations are done through your nose and your exhalations are out the mouth, releasing all the trapped and stagnant energies. Because if you think about it, when you breathe and you're in that fight or flight state for many hours of the day, your breath is shortened and it's kind of like a chest breath, like. But when you focus on your breath and you learn how to breathe properly, your abdomen is going to extend outward on your inhale and fill up with air. And then on your exhale, everything gets pulled back towards your belly button and is expelled out your body. Again, yoga, great way to go and to learn all this. Eat clean. Watch what you feed your mind, your body, and your soul. If you're going through this tough time of maybe thinking, oh, we're fighting so much and I know it's not right, but I don't know what to do, but I think I'm gonna leave, and you're just like thinking about it, pray about it, feel into it, honor yourself during this time, fill your cup, because you probably, like me, never filled your cup, never allowed yourself to fill your cup, or you were told you were selfish if you filled your own cup. You have to fill your cup first in order to find your strength, your power, your love, and your light. And you can't pour into others' cups with an empty cup. And when you eat good and you eat clean foods and you make better choices to honor your body, to give you the energy and the strength to get through this very difficult time, if you are in it, you're gonna appreciate, and it's gonna help to push you forward and empower you. Because when you eat clean, you feel good, you got energy, you can think clearly, you don't have brain fog, you don't feel, and you aren't inflamed. When you eat a lot of fast food and you're grabbing food on the go and prepackaged foods and sodas and too much coffee and too much sugars, you become inflamed and you don't feel good. And how can you get through this most difficult challenge in life when you're not feeling good? And I learned that the hard way. So I have a lot of experience in this. I'm gonna say, eat clean, honor your body, your physical vessel that is housing your beautiful soul. What else do I have here? Go in and do some inner healing. This took a while for me to understand, to even be aware of, and to do it. Was when you go in and you do some deep inner healing work, that is healing your inner child, that little child inside you, your little self when you were a little one that endured trauma, endured abuse, endured things that you didn't wish to endure, but you did, because every human on this earth is here experiencing challenges. And most of us are walking around our adult life with unprocessed traumas and unprocessed issues that never got brought to the forefront because we don't want to think about it, or it just got pushed down. I did that for the first 54 years of my life, and don't do that, guys. Take it from me, release it. Don't sweep everything under the carpet. Push into things, let yourself feel things. It is so important. It is so important, because your body's going to start to break down. You're going to start to become depressed. You're going to become dependent upon vices that just get you through your day, through your life. And I'm talking about like caffeine, sugar, smoking, vaping, alcohol, overworking out, underworking out, like being sedentary, gambling, like all the vices that we as humans learn to take on to bring us a moment, just a little moment of gratification. And you're like, oh, I feel so good, I feel so good. And then when it's over and you like go home or it wears off, and you're like, fuck, man, I'm back to the same place that I was. But when you can push into those hard things, push into those traumas, push into that inner child, push into the generational trauma, allow yourself to feel it, allow yourself to accept that, yeah, that took place and that wasn't my fault and I didn't want any part of it, but it happened. And allow it to just go away, release it. Let God, source, universe, whoever you believe in, take care of it for you, because it's not yours to hold. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen, and why it's supposed to happen. And we don't know, and we probably never will know, but it is not ours to carry the burden of that weight through the rest of our life, because it's like a pack in a suitcase. There's so much crammed in our suitcase, which is us, our physical, mental body, that we don't even know what to do. We're just like, all the time. And we lose our joy. We lose our happiness. We lose our peace. And we get in a relationship and become just traumatized and in a trauma bond with an abuser, a manipulator, somebody else that has unprocessed traumas. So I want you to know it's possible. You can find your peace. You can find happiness. It's going to take work. Go inside yourself and find your inner light, your inner strength, your inner peace. It is in there. It just needs to be activated. The layers need to be peeled through healing and feeling to get to it. I promise you this works. This was a beautiful journey that I have been on in the past 4 years, and that's why I'm making these YouTube videos, to put it out to these people that are going through the same thing. And you might be at the beginning of your journey and completely lost and don't know what the hell is going on and how are you ever going to make it, or you might be in the middle of it. Maybe you're towards the end of it. I live in love and peace and light now, and I want everybody to feel that way. So I do offer you to watch other videos on my channel. If you have somebody that you know that might need to hear this or is going through some difficult time, offer them love and grace and compassion and let them know about these videos. If you like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up. I thank you for being here. Namaste.